The first principle I want to mention in that regard has to do with being open to opportunity. To set that up, I want to explain a little bit about how I ended up in engineering economic systems. My family are farmers. I grew up in a small community in between Lincoln and Omaha, Nebraska, and my father, who actually was trained as a chemical engineer, graduated from the University of Nebraska in chemical engineering in 1930. He thought it was very important, even though he ended up coming back to our farm during the Depression, he thought it was very important that I get a business education rather than an agricultural education. His own experience as somebody who ran our farm and was very successful, very innovative, very entrepreneurial, frankly, in leading our farm. His experience was that the agricultural degree was less important than having a solid foundation in business. So he encouraged me, along with my mother, to go to Stanford. I was mentioning to my daughter today, who's here in the audience, I'm hoping that maybe she'll be a Stanford student. I related the experience to her coming to Stanford. It was December of 1975. It was 20 below zero in Nebraska. And Mom and I drove up Palm Drive. It was about the same temperature as today, about 70 degrees. So I turned to my mother and I said, "This is where I'd like to go to school." So that helps. That's one element of being open to opportunity. But perhaps a more relevant element is that I got here and I found out that there was no undergraduate business school. So my father said, "Come here for business." There was no undergraduate business school. So I turned to engineering, and I met a gentleman I mentioned earlier, Bill Linville, who was the chairman of Engineering Economic Systems and the founder of the department. Bill grew up on a hog farm in Missouri, and so he and I immediately had something in common. Hog farmer from Missouri, you know, cattle and corn and soybeans farmer from Nebraska, and he and his brother John, you know, we had something in common. And Bill Linville encouraged me to become his guinea pig, to help define an engineering economic systems degree for undergraduates. And the thinking was that I was going to use this experience to go to work for the U.S. Department of Agriculture and study work on ag policy. And I thought engineering economic systems would be a fabulous foundation for doing that. Well, what happened? I got that degree. To this day, I'm still the only undergraduate in engineering economic systems. And I bought an Apple II computer to help my brother in running our farm. And as I was exiting Stanford, Apple Computer came onto campus, and I thought, well, I need to get some experience doing job interviews, so why don't I interview with Apple since I've been playing around with these computers? And that's how I ended up at Apple Computer. So within about 4 weeks, I went from thinking I was going to the U.S. Department of Agriculture to work on ag policy to going to Apple Computer. And as they say at Apple, the rest is history. My point is, keep your ears and eyes open for opportunity. I fell in love with computing. And while, as Tom referenced, the business has been very, very good to me, and I've had the opportunity to benefit from the growth of Microsoft financially, far more important is that I fell in love with my job. I've had the opportunity to work on interesting and exciting things. And so being open to opportunity was the first principle I wanted to mention.